Hey guys, oh, I just dropped my pen. I'm gonna give you guys some feedback from week 6 really quickly. I'm still grading the research proposal part 3 assignments. Those are gonna take me a little bit longer, obviously, because there's a lot of information there. But I'm just focusing mostly on the new stuff. I'm just glancing at the previous stuff. So hopefully you've made the changes based on the other 2 assignments. I'm mostly just focusing on the 3 parts of that. And then the discussion posts, because of the technical issues, some technical issues some of you are aware of. I'm still waiting to finish grading those as well. So just making you guys aware of that. For the discussion posts, the main 2 things that you needed to make sure that you did, or that you should do if you haven't done it yet, is summarize the article well. That means talking about all the different parts, all the sections of the article, similar to the sections of your proposal. Make sure you're addressing each of those sections, summarizing them in 1 to 2 sentences, 2 or 3 sentences. If it's super detailed, you might need more. And then also making sure that you are explaining why you think that they chose that particular design. That's the other key part you needed to discuss in the discussion post. Now, for the research proposal part 3, the method section, and I apologize if you guys are hearing the TV in the background. My daughter is watching Lab Rats on Disney Plus. So, anyways, the 3 parts of the method section that you needed to talk about: design, sampling, and measurement. Okay. In the design section, you have to tell me if you're going to do qualitative, quantitative, or some kind of mixture of the 2, and why. Again, need to have that addressed. You also need to address the specific type of design that you're using based on what you've learned from the course. Go back to the sections on research, on the different research designs. Although we talk about that in almost every chapter, we talk about a new type of design. And within that, the research method that you're choosing within that design, and your prompt gives you some examples of that. But make sure that you're letting me know if it's truly experimental, where you're having a control group and an experimental group, or some kind of manipulation, or if it's quasi-experimental, or something else, correlational, whatever. Let me know what that is and why you're choosing to do it that way. Okay. Well, no, we're good. I just want to make sure I was, you just saw my daughter running around back there. Make sure I was addressing everything. Okay. Sampling, make sure that you are talking about the population and the sample, why you're sampling this particular group of people, because you're wanting to apply it to a certain population, or if there's not a particular population you're interested in, why are you not? And the projected or expected or desired amount of people that you would like to participate in the study, the amount of participants, and any kind of expected demographics. If, for example, if you're doing it on a college campus, then you're going to expect that they're going to be in a certain age range for the most part. So things like that, if race is essential, or, worth noting in your study, or if you're, controlling that, or age, gender, possible, area that they live, like urban versus rural, or, area of the United States they come from. Again, it just depends on what variables you're interested in, but make sure that you are giving as much information about your expected sample, or what your ideal sample would be, as possible. Okay. Make sure you're talking about how you're selecting them, what your sampling process is. Again, try to use those key terms that you've learned from your chapters, like convenient sampling or probability sampling or non-probability sampling or whatever. Try to use those terms when you can, and what exactly the participants have to go through in order to, start to participate in the experiment. Address informed consent and possibly debriefing if there's need for that in your study, and how and why you're going to do that, and then also how you're going to protect them from harm. And even if your study, you don't think there's going to be any harm, you need to state that. You need to say, due to the nature of this study, there's likely not going to be any harm involved, and so all ethical considerations should be met, something like that. And then measurement section, make sure that you are addressing the tools or instruments, any tools or instruments that you are going to need or to use, whether that's medical instruments or equipment, whether that's psychological, whether it's paper surveys, pencils, pens, any of that. Are you going to need a certain setting? Are you going to be doing this in a certain place? And that kind of goes into the procedure part as well. What are your variables? How are you going to measure them? And what is that procedure going to look like as far as how you are evaluating, how you are measuring the variables for these participants? What are they going to experience step by step? First, we're going to do this, then we do this, and you can say it in terms of what the participants are experiencing, or you can say it in terms of, as the researcher, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, however you want to state it, but just walk us through the procedure. And then also you need to comment on any potential validity or reliability issues, or maybe strengths, strengths in validity or reliability based on your design. We think that we're going to be strong in validity, or internal validity or external validity or reliability because of whatever. Or we think that, or this particular measurement or tool has been shown to be valid and reliable. If you're using, something like a Myers-Briggs, personality inventory, or an intelligence test that's already been used and shown to be reliable and valid, and so you're using that, then you need to say, this is already shown to be valid. Now, if you are mentioning something, saying, this is shown to be valid, or if you're justifying something that you're doing in your study, we did this because research has shown that this, and this. If you're saying something like that, you need to have a citation to back that up. Even if it's a simple statement, something that everybody knows, it's just well understood, you still need to make sure that you are finding some sort of research that backs that up. And it can be a quick, search, internet search. Find a study that backs up what you're saying, that, supports it, justifies it, and then just put it in a citation and put it in your reference list, and you're good to go. But again, you want to support things like that you're saying. You want the reader to know that it is supported. Your decisions and the things you're doing is supported by previous research. Sorry. Okay. And then also, what do your scores mean, and what are you going to do with them? Now, you don't have to go into too much detail as far as, statistical analysis and comparison and stuff. That's going to be later. But you do want to make sure that you're measuring, or that you're saying, we're going to get numerical scores, or we're going to, what exactly are you going to, how are you going to compare? What variables are you comparing? What scores are you comparing? Things like that. Okay. And then for the quiz results, you guys did great on this quiz. There were only a few things I wanted to touch on. One is that, again, anything, hey, hold on. Anything about statistics, anything that's talking about the statistics that you're used to analyze, any kind of, analysis, statistics, any of that is going to be in your results section of an article. Okay. So there were a couple questions that address different sections of research articles. Remember, results or statistics goes in the results section. Any kind of conclusions, any kind of real world applications, any kind of things like that is going in that discussion section. Okay. That's where you discuss the results. Okay. And you apply those statistics and you draw conclusions from those statistics. Any kind of predictions, that from your hypotheses, that's going to either be in your introduction section. Some people might go ahead and put that in their introduction section when they're talking about their hypotheses, or it could also be in the discussion section when they're talking about, whether or not the predictions, were reflected or were in the results or were true or whatever, that the findings matched. Another question that tripped a few of you up was the question about within subjects design. I think, again, you guys are mixing up within subjects and between subjects in your brains, because a lot of you picked that only one score is obtained for each of the participants, and that is for between subjects because you're comparing groups. And so everybody in this group's tested once, everybody in this group's tested once, everybody in this group is tested once. So all the participants are only tested one time for between subjects. For within subjects, at least 2 sets of scores are obtained from the same sample, from all participants. Okay, so I don't know if it was the same sample thing that maybe threw you guys off because it didn't say all participants, but that's what that means. Sample is the same as all your participants. So 2 sets of scores are from everybody because it's within subjects. So you're comparing the scores of this group with the scores from that same group. So the participants are scored on some variable and then they are scored again. So you're comparing the scores and they're all the same people. So that each person is tested twice or more, but within subjects, it's going to be at least twice. So instead of comparing 2 different groups, you're comparing 2 sets of scores for the same people. Okay. So just to clarify that. And then there was a question about Pearson's R correlation. And it was a very high correlation. It was like 0.8 something or something. So it was very close to 1 and it was positive. And so what that means is that the points are going to be clustered around a line. So the fact that it's close to 1 means that it's very much looking like a line. It's not dots scattered all over the place in your scatter plot, right? If it was closer to 0, it would be random dots. But if it's in a straight line or close to a line, it's going to be closer to 1. So this would be a closer to a line. And since it's positive and not negative, that means it's going to go uphill. It's going to go up to the right. As you move across the x-axis to the right, it's going to go up because it is positive. As this is increasing, so is this. So as the vertical is increasing, the horizontal is also increasing. So it's going uphill. Okay. If it was a negative 0.8 or whatever the measurement was, or the correlation was, it would go downhill. It would go this way because as the X is increasing, the Y would decrease. So it would go downhill. But it would still be a line because it's close to that 1 value. So it would still be a line. But again, if it was 0, it would be all over the place. There would be randomly scattered dots and it wouldn't resemble a line. So that's just a quick review of correlations. There was another question that had a matrix that was talking about results for a 2-factor experiment. And remember how to figure out what the main effects are and what the interactions are. You need to look at the pattern. Well, if you want to do the main effects first, you need to add up the values in the rows, in each row, and average it. So the average for the top row, again, the average, so you add them and divide by 2 because there was 2 squares. or two scores, or two means rather, I should say, means, not scores. So the mean for B, for the top row, which was variable B, was 25. The mean for B2, which was the bottom row, was also 25. So there's no main effect for B because they are the same. Those averages are the same. So there was not a difference between the groups, right? So there's no main effect. For the variable A, you do the columns. You average the columns. And so the average for the first column was 35. Sorry, I was looking at the numbers. 35. And then the average for the second column was 15. So obviously that is different. So that would be a main effect for variable A. So main effect for factor A, no main effect for factor B. And then how you tell if there's an interaction, remember, you are looking to see if the pattern holds. So as one increases, and the other is increasing, or they're increasing by the same amount, I find that it actually helps to plot it, to see it visually. Just for me personally, that makes me feel more comfortable. I just feel like I can understand it better if I see it visually. So what you would do is you would make an axis, like we were talking about before, and you would have the variable B and variable A, and you're going to match the points. So A1 and B1 is a certain number, and so you go up and you make a certain dot depending on where that is, and you would connect the dots for variable A or variable B, and you see if they are parallel to each other, then there's no interaction. If they cross in any way, either at the end point or in the middle or anything like that, then there is an interaction. Okay. I wish I should have drawn something out and showed you guys what that looks like. But I may do that in a later video. But just as a reminder, that's a great way to see if there is an interaction for a matrix. Okay. And then let me look. I think that was it. I think you guys did really great on all the other ones. Yeah, you guys did great on all the other ones. So, yeah, if y'all have any questions about any that you missed, and I didn't address it here and you don't know why you missed it, please reach out to me, email me and let me know. Now, we are in week 7 now this week, believe it or not. And so I am trying to get those part 3 research proposal assignments graded and to you as quickly as I can, so that you can use that feedback to help you, so that you can have as much time as possible to get your final research proposal, because that is due this Sunday. So, spoiler alert. So week 7, in your folder, you have your overview and objectives. We're on chapter 15, where we're going to finally talk about statistical evaluation of data, just a little bit. Don't panic. And then you have a video on how to do a one-way goodness of fit chi-square in JASP. So JASP video. And then you have your example outline of your full research proposal to help guide you. Again, make sure you look at that. And then so you have your week 7 quiz. Of course, you have a JASP assignment based on that video. And then you have your final research proposal. Dun, dun, dun. So the JASP assignment this week, let's see, it looks like it should be in a .csv format. Please make sure what format it's in. or it can just be a screenshot. So if you have issues, if it's supposed to be HTML or CSV or whatever it is, and you have issues uploading it, just screenshot it. Either if it's on your computer, literally take a picture of it with your phone and email it to me. Make sure I can see it well, make sure it's a good picture and I can see it all, make sure it's there. Or if you're doing it on, you know, an iPad or even a desktop or a laptop, and you can screenshot it within, you know, on the device itself, screenshot it and email me that, if you have to. Because I know sometimes the technical stuff with JASP can be tricky, and it's totally fine with me if you send me an email, with that. A lot of you have done that already, but, just throwing that out there because we had a little bit of issues with that last week. So, that's it for week 7. If you guys have any questions about anything, let me know. All right.